First contact at dawn. The Deep Space Research Facility, Helios 9, hung like a crystalline spiderweb against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms. In its lowest level, past the quantum computing labs and cynobiology chambers, Sarah Chen sat alone in the facility's café, her fingers dancing across her datapad surface. Unlike other researchers who needed to see the holographic displays, Sarah read the patterns through touch alone, her enhanced synesthetic abilities translating the microscopic vibrations into complex mathematical formulas in her mind. At 26, she was the youngest quantum harmonics specialist ever accepted into the Helios program. Her ability to perceive and manipulate quantum frequencies through touch had made her invaluable to the research team, even if it meant spending most of her time in isolation, away from the overwhelming sensory noise of the main labs. The cafe was empty at this early hour, its automated systems humming quietly as they prepared for the day shift. Sarah preferred it this way. The subtle vibrations of the facility's fusion core resonated through the floor in perfect harmony with her morning routine. But today, something was different. A new frequency cut through the familiar background hum, crystalline, complex, and definitely not human in origin. Sarah's fingers stilled on her datapad. "Hello," she called out, her head tilting slightly as she focused on the strange resonance. "I can sense you there." The frequency shifted, became more focused. From the shadows of the cafe's far corner, a form emerged, or rather, assembled itself. Countless floating crystalline shards, each no larger than a grain of sand, swirled together like a constellation taking shape. They formed a roughly humanoid figure, though its proportions were alien. Too tall, too angular, with limbs that seemed to fade into streams of light at their edges. Fascinating. The being's voice came not as sound, but as precisely modulated vibrations that Sarah could feel through the floor and air. "You perceive my true form, not merely the visual construct I present to others." Sarah smiled, her fingers resuming their dance across the datapad, but now recording the complex harmonics emanating from her visitor. "And you're speaking to me in frequencies rather than using the standard universal translator. I appreciate the courtesy." The crystalline being moved closer, its form shifting like sunlight through a prism. "I am resonance of distant stars," it said, the translation coming through in the harmonic overtones of its frequencies. "Though I believe in your language, that would be rather cumbersome." "How about Res?" Sarah suggested, her smile widening. "I'm Sarah Chen. Would you like to join me? The coffee here is terrible, but the quantum harmonics are excellent." A sound like wind through crystal chimes emanated from Res. Laughter, Sarah realized. The being settled into the space across from her, its crystalline form arranging itself into something approximating a seated position. "You are not afraid," Res observed. "Most humans find my kind unsettling." Sarah shrugged, her fingers never stopping their recording of the fascinating harmonics before her. "I've never really relied on visual appearance. Everything and everyone has their own frequency, their own song. Yours is just more complex than most, like a symphony compared to a single note." "You speak as one who understands the music," Res said, its form shifting in what Sarah interpreted as surprise. "We had not thought humans capable of such perception." "Most aren't," Sarah admitted. "I was born with an unusual form of synesthesia that the quantum enhancement programs amplified. I perceive reality through vibrations and frequencies. It makes me very good at my job, even if it makes some people uncomfortable." Res's crystalline form pulsed with interest. "And what is your job, Sarah Chen?" "I'm a quantum harmonics specialist. I study the fundamental frequencies of reality and how they can be manipulated. Currently, I'm working on improving our long-range communication systems by using quantum entanglement to eliminate transmission delay." She paused, then added with a slight smirk, "Though I suspect you already knew that, given that you're in a restricted research facility." The crystalline being's form flickered. "Embarrassment, perhaps." "You are correct. I am here as part of the collective scientific exchange program. Though I must admit, I chose this early hour hoping to avoid interaction. My previous encounters with humans have been less productive. Sarah nodded, understanding all too well. It's hard when nobody speaks your language, or when they expect you to communicate in ways that don't come naturally. She gestured to her datapad. Would you like to see what your frequencies look like translated into our mathematical notation? I've been recording them. Hope you don't mind. Rez leaned forward, its crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the cafe table. As Sarah began explaining her notations, neither of them noticed the facility's day cycle beginning, nor the first researchers arriving for their morning coffee. They were too engrossed in their discussion of quantum harmonics and the mathematical poetry of existence. What they also didn't notice was the facility's security eye logging their interaction, flagging it for review. In a few hours, their innocent exchange of scientific knowledge would trigger a cascade of events that would challenge both their world's understanding of communication, consciousness, and connection. But for now, in the quiet of the cafe, they were simply two beings sharing their love of the universe's hidden music. The hidden truth. Sarah's fingers flew across her workstation's surface, translating the complex harmonics she recorded during her encounter with Rez into standard scientific notation. The patterns were unlike anything in the facility's database, multidimensional frequencies that seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that defied conventional physics. The secure lab hummed around her, its quantum isolation fields keeping external vibrations from interfering with her work. But even through these barriers, she could feel something wrong in the facility's underlying resonance. The usual steady thrum of the fusion core had developed a subtle dissonance, like an orchestra slowly falling out of tune. Computer, analyze structural integrity of containment systems, she commanded, more out of instinct than procedure. The AI's response was immediate but unhelpful, all systems functioning within normal parameters. Sarah frowned. The dissonance was getting stronger, a jarring note in the facility's usual symphony. Her enhanced senses had never been wrong before, but she had no way to prove what she was feeling to her superiors, unless her fingers found a new rhythm on the workstation, pulling up the facility's communication protocols. Res, she transmitted, using the quantum frequencies she documented earlier. Are you feeling it too? The response came instantly, bypassing the facility's standard communication channels. The harmonic disturbance grows stronger. The human's instruments cannot detect it yet, but it threatens the very fabric of this space. Meet me in Lab 7, Sarah suggested, already gathering her equipment. It's isolated from the main systems. We can talk freely there. The lab was dark when Sarah arrived, but she could feel Rez's crystalline presence assembling itself from the shadows. The being's frequencies were tenser now, its usual melodic patterns sharp with concern. What we discuss must remain between us, Rez began, its form shifting anxiously. My presence here is not merely for scientific exchange. I am a harmonics architect, part of an ancient order that maintains the fundamental frequencies of space-time. Sarah leaned against a workbench, her fingers absently tracing the patterns of Rez's speech in the air. The disturbance in the facility's resonance, it's not just a mechanical problem, is it? No, Rez confirmed. Your facility's experiments with quantum entanglement have created a cascade effect in the local space-time fabric. The dissonance you feel is reality itself beginning to unravel. Sarah's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. How long? Without intervention, the fabric will tear within 72 hours. The resulting quantum catastrophe would consume this facility, then Jupiter, then perhaps the entire solar system. Rez's form flickered with distress. But there may be a solution. Your ability to perceive and manipulate quantum frequencies, it is remarkably similar to our own. You want my help, Sarah realized. But why haven't you reported this to your superiors? Or ours? Rez's crystalline structure dimmed slightly. Politics. Your governments would blame each other. Mine would demand the immediate shutdown of all human quantum research facilities. Decades of progress would be lost, and the trust between our species destroyed. But together, working unofficially, we might find another way. Sarah finished. She pushed away from the workbench, her mind already racing through possibilities. Show me what you know about the frequency patterns. All of it. For the next several hours, Rez shared knowledge that no human had ever seen. The fundamental mathematics of reality itself. Sarah's fingers danced continuously, recording and analyzing, her enhanced senses allowing her to grasp concepts that should have taken years to master. But as they worked, security cameras watched silently. In the facility's main control room, Director Hammond reviewed the footage with growing concern. "She's compromised," he told his assembled staff. "The alien has her completely convinced of this doomsday scenario. We can't risk losing our most valuable asset to alien manipulation." "Sir," his assistant ventured, "what if they're right? The auxiliary systems have been reporting strange power fluctuations." "They're lying," Hammond snapped. "Or delusional. Either way, we're implementing Contingency Protocol 7. Effective immediately, Dr. Chen is relieved of duty and confined to quarters. The alien will be detained for questioning. Our work is too important to be derailed by paranoid fantasies." Back in Lab 7, Sarah suddenly stiffened. Through the floor, she felt the vibrations of armed security teams moving into position. "Rez," she whispered, "we have company." The crystalline beings form condensed, becoming more solid. "They will try to separate us. If they succeed—" "They won't," Sarah interrupted. Her fingers flew across her datapad one last time, initiating a program she'd written but hoped never to use. Throughout the facility, lights flickered as security systems began to fail. "I bought us some time, but we need to move. Now." As alarms began to blare, Sarah and Rez slipped out of the lab into the chaos of a facility in lockdown. They had less than 72 hours to prevent a catastrophe that most people didn't believe was coming, with the full might of human security forces trying to stop them. But Sarah smiled grimly as they moved through the shadows. For the first time in her life, she wasn't alone in hearing the music of the universe, or in knowing the responsibility that came with that gift. Crisis point. The maintenance tunnels beneath Helios 9 thrummed with dangerous energy. Sarah pressed her palm against the wall, wincing at the discordant frequencies that pulsed through the metal. The quantum disturbance was growing faster than predicted, sending ripples of dissonance through the station's structure. "The barrier between dimensions is thinning," Rez observed, its crystalline form flickering with anxiety. "We have less time than I calculated. Perhaps 40 hours now, not 72. Sarah nodded, her fingers moving across her modified datapad. She'd rerouted its quantum sensors to mask their presence from the facility's security systems, but that was becoming increasingly difficult as reality itself began to fluctuate around them. "The main quantum lab is 3 levels up. If we can reach the primary containment chamber, I might be able to use the equipment there to stabilize the breach." "Might." Rez's form shimmered with doubt. "The equipment in that lab caused this crisis. Using it could accelerate the collapse." "True," Sarah admitted, "but it's also the only technology powerful enough to generate the frequency patterns we need. Unless your people are planning to send help." Rez's crystalline structure dimmed slightly. "My transmission to the collective was not well received. They believe the situation too volatile for direct intervention. They recommend immediate evacuation of the facility and controlled detonation to seal the breach. Abandoning billions to death by quantum cascade isn't an option," Sarah said firmly. She pressed her hand against another section of wall, reading the facility's rhythms. "Security teams are concentrated on the upper levels. They're not looking for us down here. They think we'll try for the shuttle bays." A sound like chiming crystals emanated from Rez. A laugh, though there was little humor in it. "Director Hammond believes we intend to steal research data. He cannot comprehend that we're trying to save his facility." "People fear what they don't understand," Sarah replied, leading them deeper into the maintenance network. "And right now, what's happening is beyond anyone's understanding. Except maybe ours." They moved in silence for several minutes, guided by Sarah's ability to read the facility's vibrations. The dissonance was getting worse. Even the air seemed to shimmer with unstable quantum frequencies. Twice they had to stop and wait as reality briefly flickered around them, solid matter becoming momentarily transparent as dimensional barriers weakened. "Sarah," Rez said suddenly, its tone urgent, "your biosignatures are fluctuating. The quantum disturbance, it's affecting you." She nodded grimly. "I know. My enhanced perception makes me more sensitive to the dimensional instabilities. But it also means I'm the only one who can fix this." She didn't mention the headache building behind her eyes, or how each reality flicker sent spikes of pain through her nervous system. They reached a junction where 3 maintenance tunnels converged. Sarah pressed her palm against the floor, reading the complex patterns of vibration. "The quantum lab is directly above us." "But—" She hesitated, frowning. "Something's wrong. The resonance patterns are too chaotic." Rez moved closer, its crystalline form extending tendrils of light that analyzed the surrounding space. "The quantum breach, it's no longer just affecting the facility. It's creating micro-tears in the dimensional fabric. If they continue to spread, the entire solar system could be pulled into a quantum singularity." Sarah finished. She pulled up schematics on her datapad, fingers flying across its surface. "There's an access shaft that leads directly to the lab's maintenance level. We can bypass most of the security checkpoints. But what? The shaft runs right next to the fusion core, with the quantum disturbances affecting the containment fields." She let the implications hang in the air. Rez's form pulsed with determination. "Then we must be swift and precise. The longer we delay, the greater the risk to everyone." Sarah nodded, already moving toward the access panel that would lead them to the shaft. But as she reached for the controls, a violent tremor shook the facility. The metal walls around them groaned as reality flickered, portions of the structure briefly phasing out of existence before snapping back. "That was stronger than the others," Sarah gasped, steadying herself against the wall. "The quantum cascade is accelerating. We've got maybe 12 hours now, not 40. "Can you still do this?" Rez asked, genuine concern resonating through its frequencies. "Your biological systems are under immense strain." Sarah managed a grim smile. "I spent my whole life being told what I couldn't do because I was different. Now those differences might be the only thing that can save everyone." She squared her shoulders, ignoring the way her vision blurred at the edges. "Let's go prove them all wrong." As they climbed into the access shaft, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency containment protocols were activating automatically as systems detected the growing quantum instabilities. But it wasn't the alarms that worried Sarah, it was the silence she felt building beneath them, a void in the music of reality itself. They were running out of time. Above them, the quantum lab waited with its dangers and possibilities. Below, the fusion core hummed an increasingly unstable melody. And all around them, the fabric of space-time continued to unravel, threatening to take the entire solar system with it when it finally broke. The choice. The quantum lab was a nightmare of shifting realities. Equipment phased in and out of existence as dimensional barriers continued to weaken. Sarah's enhanced senses screamed at her as conflicting frequencies tore through the air. Even Rez's crystalline form seemed to struggle, its edges blurring as multiple quantum states tried to exist simultaneously. "The containment chamber," Sarah gasped, fighting through the sensory overload. "We need to reach the main controls." But before they could move, the lab's main door slid open. Director Hammond stood there, flanked by security officers in quantum-shielded armor. His face was a mask of cold determination. "Dr. Chen," he said, "step away from the alien." "That's an order." Sarah straightened, positioning herself between the security team and Rez. "Director, you don't understand. The quantum cascade is reaching critical levels. If we don't act now—" "What I understand," Hammond interrupted, "is that our most valuable researcher has been compromised by an alien entity. one that has convinced her to sabotage years of vital research with stories of impossible disasters. A reality flicker rippled through the lab. For a brief moment, everyone saw multiple versions of themselves overlapping, possibilities bleeding into each other. The security officers shifted uncomfortably, but Hammond's expression remained fixed. Impossible disasters. Sarah laughed bitterly. Look around you. Reality itself is coming apart, and your instruments are too crude to even measure it properly. Sarah, Rez's harmonics vibrated with urgency. The quantum breach is accelerating. We have minutes, not hours. Hammond's eyes narrowed. Contain them both. The alien for interrogation, Dr. Chen for psychiatric evaluation. The security officers raised their weapons, but Sarah was already moving. Her fingers flew across the nearest console, inputting commands with impossible speed. The lab's emergency containment fields activated, creating a barrier between them and Hammond's team. That won't hold them long, she muttered, racing toward the main containment chamber. Her head pounded as conflicting quantum states battered her enhanced senses, but she forced herself to focus. Rez moved with her, its crystalline form providing light in the now darkened lab. What is your plan? Something incredibly stupid, Sarah admitted, reaching the chamber's controls. The quantum breach is too large to seal completely, but we might be able to redirect it. Create a controlled collapse that would spare the solar system. The calculations would have to be perfect, Rez observed, analyzing the complex equations appearing on Sarah's screen. Even a slight error would atomize us instantly, I know. Sarah's fingers danced across the console. But we don't have a choice. The cascade has gone too far to stop completely. Behind them, the containment field flickered as Hammond's team worked to disable it. Through the barrier, Sarah could see the director shouting orders, his face contorted with fury and fear. Sarah, Rez said softly, its frequencies carrying a note of deep concern. What you're proposing. The energy required would be enormous. The only way to generate it would be to use my enhanced nervous system as a quantum conductor, she finished. Yeah, I figured that out too. Rez's form pulsed with distress. It would destroy you. Your consciousness would be scattered across multiple quantum states. Even if you survived physically, your mind would be fractured beyond repair. Sarah's hands stilled on the console. Is there another way? Yes, Rez's crystalline structure shifted, becoming more defined. I could serve as the conductor. My species evolved to manipulate quantum frequencies. I would have a better chance of surviving the process. But a crystalline being wasn't meant to handle this kind of focused energy, Sarah protested. You'd shatter at the atomic level. The containment field gave another violent flicker. They had minutes at most before Hammond's team broke through, and beyond the lab's walls, reality continued to unravel, the void in the music growing larger with each passing second. One of us has to do it, Sarah said quietly, and only one of us can operate the equipment to make sure the calculations are perfect. Rez moved closer, its form casting prismatic patterns across Sarah's face. You would sacrifice yourself to save not just your own species, but mine as well. Even after your own people doubted and imprisoned you. Sarah smiled, though tears glimmered in her eyes. I'd spent my whole life being different, being alone. But then I met you, and for the first time, someone else could hear the music too. That's worth saving. The containment field collapsed. As Hammond's team rushed forward, Sarah made her choice. Her fingers flew across the console one last time, initiating the sequence that would change everything. The containment chamber hummed to life, quantum energies swirling like a storm of light and possibility. Rez, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Whatever happens, thank you for showing me I wasn't alone. Then she stepped into the chamber, and the world exploded into light. New horizons, light, endless, infinite light. Sarah floated in an ocean of quantum possibilities. Her consciousness stretched across countless realities. She could feel everything. Every version of herself, every choice, every moment that was or could be. The pain was extraordinary, but so was the beauty. The music of the universe had never been clearer. Through the chaos, she focused on her purpose. Her enhanced senses, now expanded beyond anything humanly possible, reached out to grasp the quantum frequencies. She could feel the breach, a vast tear in reality's fabric. With infinite care, she began to weave the frequencies together, using her own consciousness as an anchor point. In the lab, time seemed to stop. The security team stood frozen, weapons half-raised, as reality itself bent around the containment chamber. Rez's crystalline form pulsed with desperate energy as it monitored the quantum readings, making microscopic adjustments to maintain the delicate balance Sarah had initiated. Director Hammond watched in stunned silence as patterns of light danced across his facility's walls, mathematical equations written in pure energy, the language of universe itself made visible. "My God," he whispered, "she was right all along." Inside the quantum maelstrom, Sarah worked with the precision of a cosmic surgeon. Each frequency had to be perfectly aligned, each dimensional thread woven back into its proper place. The void in the music was closing, but the cost was beyond calculation. She could feel herself coming apart, her identity fragmenting across quantum states. Then, through the chaos, she felt something else, a familiar crystalline resonance reaching out to her. Rez had interfaced with the containment chamber systems, extending its consciousness into the quantum field. "You don't have to do this alone." Rez's frequencies sang through the void. "Let me help you carry the weight." Their consciousnesses merged, human and crystalline, organic and mineral. Together, they became a bridge between realities, their combined understanding of the universe's music allowing them to repair what had been broken. The quantum breach began to seal, reality knitting itself back together under their guidance. In the lab, alarms fell silent. The violent reality fluctuations settled into gentle ripples, then stopped completely. The containment chamber's energy field collapsed, revealing Sarah's physical form crumpled on the floor. But beside her lay something extraordinary, a hybrid structure of organic tissue and living crystal, pulsing with its own inner light. Hours later, in the facility's medical bay, Sarah opened her eyes. Her vision had changed. She could see quantum frequencies now, not just feel them. The world around her was a symphony of light and energy, more beautiful than she had ever imagined. "Welcome back," Rez's voice came from beside her. The crystalline being had maintained a portion of its original form, but now there was something more, a bridge between their two species' ways of existing. "The quantum breach is sealed. Reality has stabilized." Sarah sat up slowly, marveling at her transformed awareness. "We're different now, aren't we? Both of us." "Yes," Rez confirmed. "The merger of our consciousnesses created something new. The collective is fascinated and concerned." "They're not the only ones," Sarah said, nodding toward the observation window where Director Hammond stood with a group of officials. Their expressions were a mix of awe, fear, and desperate curiosity. "They want to understand what we've become," Rez observed. "As do I. If I'm honest, this was not an outcome I had calculated as possible." Sarah laughed, the sound carrying harmonic overtones that made the nearby equipment hum in sympathy. "Sometimes the most beautiful possibilities are the ones we don't see coming." She extended her hand, watching as her own subtle crystalline patterns caught the light. "So what happens now?" "Now," Rez said, its form shifting closer, "we have work to do. What we've become, this bridge between our species, it opens up entirely new avenues of research, ways to prevent future breaches, yes, but also opportunities to expand both our people's understanding of reality itself." Sarah smiled, feeling the quantum frequencies singing around them with newfound clarity. "They'll be afraid at first. Humans fear change, and we've changed more than anyone could have imagined." "Fear can be overcome with understanding," Rez replied. "We are living proof of that." Together, they turned to face the window and the officials beyond it. Sarah could feel their anxiety, their wonder, their desperate need to make sense of what had happened. But she was no longer afraid of their judgment or their doubts. She had faced the void between realities and emerged transformed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as she had faced the quantum breach, with courage, curiosity, and the knowledge that she was no longer alone. In the depths of space, Jupiter continued its eternal dance around the sun. But now, in a research facility hanging like a jewel in its orbit, something new had been born. A bridge between species, between ways of perceiving reality, between what was and what could be. The music of the universe had gained new instruments, and its symphony was all the richer for it. Sarah extended her transformed awareness into space, feeling the quantum frequencies that bound reality together. There was still so much to learn, so much to explore. But now, as both human and something more, she was finally ready to help others hear the music that had always called to her. The universe, she knew, would never sound quite the same again.